All right, well, good morning, everybody. This is Ryan Henry with GRIP Business Traction. I'm a certified EOS implementer. EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And I'm with one of my clients, one of my favorite people in the world, Jeremy Neybert with Next Chapter Construction. And today we're just going to be talking with Jeremy on his road of EOS implementation and where we're at and what he's got to say about that. So super excited to have you on with me today, Jeremy. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So just to start us off, for our listeners that don't know you, how do you introduce yourself? Like, well, how did you get to here today? Like, how did all that happen? How do you tell your story?
The elevator pitch. Well, my story is definitely unique, to say the least, and I try not to dwell on this too much. But most people don't realize that I'm 29, and so I like to just get that off right off the beginning. I'm only 29 years old, but I always feel like I've been an old soul, and I've had amazing opportunities along my path that I think most don't get to experience as young as I was, but has helped shape me and mold me to get me to this point. And so, yeah, my elevator pitch is, this is my second industry. So I guess to start right at the beginning, I mean, I started working at 14, just odd jobs here and there. And then after I got out of high school, I landed a job as a mover with a franchise moving company called Two Men in a Truck. So 2009, I'm going to college, having fun, working out on the trucks, making money, and just having a blast doing it, working for a really great company. So I did that for a couple of years, just working on the trucks, had a career path decision. I was at a crossroads. I thought I was going to be a dentist. That was my vision back when I was in high school. And after about 2.5 years of going to college and working, decided that wasn't for me. And so amongst that, I decided, okay, well, if I'm not going to be a dentist, I don't know, my vision isn't clear. I might as well try to just work up this company. And that at the time was Two Men in a Truck, and took a job as a salesperson. So just doing phone sales, picking up the phone. Only did that for 6 months before I got recruited by the home office. So the international, Two Men in a Truck International, which was down the street off Bell Chase Way in Lansing. And at 21 years old, they were letting me assist new franchisees start up their locations. And so as soon as they signed the franchise agreement, they were then handed off to me, and I became their implementation team. And so at 21 years old, I was traveling around the country, starting up new Two Men in a Truck locations and just being around business owners. And that's where I think I found my passion for business, was just all the different complex situations, and being able to problem solve was what I found I loved. And so did that for 1.5 years. Realized that the corporate setting was not the setting for me. And so I left from the corporate office, the Two Men in a Truck home office, and joined a big franchisee group. So privately held franchises, because they're all but 2 were independently owned and operated. And so took my new wife, I think we were married for about 6 months. We packed all of our stuff up and moved across the country to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Worked there I took over 3 locations as a general manager for about 3.5, 4 years. Worked in there, got to develop my own business. The group I was working for was amazing, because I meet with the owners once a year, and I was kind of just off on my own little island. Now, the life jacket or the life preserver was that it was a franchise company. So it wasn't without processes or systems. Did that, got pregnant had our first daughter out there, got pregnant with our second, had to make the tough decision to move back to Michigan, gave my notice, and then was blessed with the ability to work at the corporate level for the group I was with. So the privately held group was so large at the time, they needed to start building infrastructure from a corporate standpoint. And so got to work from home. The problem was they were in 5 states. None of those states were Michigan. So I was traveling around the country, working as the director of operations at the time. Did that for a few months, and then they made me a president of the entire moving division, which was kind of cool. So did that until 2018. I was a little bit burnt out from traveling. I had two little girls that were starting to grow up, and I was traveling every other week for about 2 years. And so that became too much. And so, I was like, okay, well, what industry do I want to go into? And fell in love with construction. And so that was my transition point from the moving business, moving industry, and worked for a local construction company based out of Lansing. And I think I started January 2019. So that kind of gets us to 2019, right? So we're getting close. Sorry if I'm too long-winded.
No, I was just going to say shout out to Mary Ellen Sheets and all the folks over there at 2 Men in a Truck, great company based right out of here in Lansing.
Yeah, I mean, Brig and John Sorber, I mean, they're such a great family. Melanie, amazing people. And we talk a lot about core values, and I won't marinate on this too much, but we talk a lot about core values. Wow, talk about a company that was just ingrained from the beginning on what they valued, what they wanted, and it bled through all the way to the guys picking people's stuff up and setting it down. So amazing example to grow up in, for sure.
Yeah, and I thought maybe we'd stop there for just a second, because
sure,
I got to imagine those many years together with that organization, it put an imprint on you on a lot of things. You wanted to be a dentist. I forgot about that. You told me.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you're not a dentist and doing what you're doing. What happened? You mentioned some of it, but I guess maybe just put a bow on it. What do you feel like when you were transitioning out of 2 Men that you picked up and became part of things you learned and became kind of this, different journey from when you started there as a 21-year-old kid?
A couple things. I'd say number one, systems and processes are important. You can grow all you want, but you can't scale without a system. You just can't. Whether it's not sustainable or you just hate your life, if you don't scale properly, it's not going to work out. So that was number one. Number two, and I think this was massive for my success in the construction industry, is it doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. You just got to be yourself. I mean, that's what 2 Men in a Truck did back in the 80s, was they saw a need. I mean, the general perception of movers was they were guys right out of prison, and they were going to break all your crap, and they were going to steal from you. And 2 Men in a Truck said, whoa, no, we're going to be the movers who care, based on our mission of providing exceptional customer service. And so they took what in an industry that had a bad perception, that most people would be like, yeah, I don't want to grow up to be running a moving company, right? And they created, an amazing system, amazing processes, and they were able to do that. And most people don't know this. I think at the time in 2018, they were doing about $750 million in annual revenue. They were in 4 countries, 350 to 400 locations. So it's a lot bigger than the name says, but also gives that feeling that it's still a mom and a pop with 2 Men in a Truck. So yeah, I think those are 2 great things. Oh, the third one, and I think this is what makes me a lot different from other people. But what I learned is that it doesn't matter whether we're operating a laundromat or moving people's furniture or building people's stuff. Business is business. And the principles that work in business are true across industries. Now, there might be nuances, but living and driving your core values and your mission statement, that's the same across the board. It doesn't matter, like I said, if we're operating a dry cleaning business, or a Fortune 500 company. There's just certain principles that if you do really, really well and stay focused, you're going to be successful.
That's so good. I just was thinking, wow, you're right. It's moving. We're moving people's stuff. in the core values of Two Men, and just again, shout out to Two Men to Truck, but
right.
that's the difference, isn't it, of that organization?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Really normal, nothing broke the industry as far as how they move people.
Nope, they didn't like create robots that, yeah, they didn't create robots that did it.
Right.
But they were intentional about hiring good guys that, you know, we drug tested, had background checks on, and then we trained them. And so, again, it just goes to a core competency of, okay, well, we're going to be moving people's stuff, but you got to realize that we're moving people's stuff. It's all their possessions. It might be grandma's hutch, and you got to realize that. You got to make sure that that bleeds from the top all the way down to the guys, you know, providing the service, because there was no product really that Two Men sold. The product was their service, which was a couple guys in a truck.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it. That's really, really good. Thanks for just kind of letting us stop there. So you're coming, and then, but you learned more than that because you were working with entrepreneurs within the ecosystem of Two Men, which is probably pretty unique as well, because their franchisees are not just that, they're really their own ecosystem of other entrepreneurs. So you were working with an entrepreneurial group inside another entrepreneurial group, right?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you learn there?
So the group I worked for had a CMO. It was started by a CMO and CFO of a Fortune 500. And so what I learned there, and the group that they created, or the umbrella corporation, had 4 different niches that they did. One of them was moving. One of them was the franchise moving company. But what happened with me is, once I elevated, and I didn't even have to get to the presidency role before they started to, like, you started to get cross-trained, and you started to realize, like, the economies of scale and the things that you can do, that even if you're a moving company, it doesn't mean you can't have a strong focus on data and analytics and caring, you know what I mean? And really brought a sophistication to whatever we were doing. And so again, yeah, we're moving people's stuff, but at the time, I think we were doing about $20 to $25 million in annual revenue. We had 120 assets or trucks out on the road. We had 500 employees. And so, yeah, at the micro level,
we're 29 years old. You were leading and managing a group of 500 people. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, you broke up. Say that again.
You were saying you were responsible for 500 people?
Yeah. When was I started there? I was as the presidency. I was 26, 27. So that was fun.
That's not normal. I don't know many people like that. That's not normal. Sorry. Wait a minute. What did he just say? Okay. So they gave you a lot of responsibility.
But we're always there to support, which was the cool thing. So if I needed something, or if they saw something tactically, they weren't afraid to share it, and I wasn't afraid to ask it. And so when you get that big, I mean, you got to kind of check your ego, right? And I mean, I guess maybe that was one of the benefits of me being so young, is that I didn't have a bunch of like bad habits and stuff. I grew up in the system. And so I didn't let that, or I didn't have that ego to cloud my judgment. It was just, how can we get better each and every day?
That's really good. So I'm sure you learned a ton with that. So you're coming out of this amazing run. You're home back in Michigan, and you're ready for a change. And then you find yourself in another industry that maybe it's got a little bit of a bad rep. For those that know me, I was in construction for 20 years altogether, from when I was 18 to about 38. And about 2/3 of that time owning a construction company. So I'm really curious about you coming into construction. What did you see coming in? What did it look like? For those of us that have been in it for years, maybe we can't see the trees from the forest. What did you see in this industry?
I think right off the bat, I saw just there is a true need out there. There's a need. There's an inkling. Uh, there's a passion for change. Now, if you think of construction, you're like, oh my gosh, these guys. There's a lot of there's a lot of old dogs out there in the fight, but there's this kind of peaking out where it's hungry for change. It doesn't want this. I don't think this construction industry wants to stay the same. I think it's ready to evolve. I think, 2006 to 2010 crushed the construction industry. I think it was very impactful for Michigan specifically. And I think, I think there is,
I can show you.
you got some of the scars. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was still in high school back then, but I've seen the data. I was around it, right? Yeah, I think that was the first thing that I saw, was that the industry is itching to change. It just needs leaders and people to get behind that vision and just say, hey guys, like, let's go, let's change this freaking thing and let's make it better.
Wow. So you launch right in and you start to see the dysfunction. Is that a good word of the industry?
Yeah, I think dysfunction. I mean, at some point we can talk about like what I think is truly broken with the industry.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Okay. Well, and this is really what I mean. It took me a year to be in the weeds to really to get to this point where I feel like I have clarity on what I think is broken with it. But yeah, I'll start off with, innovation. So there's a lot of software companies and there's tech that's out there, but even on large scale projects, there's not technology being used. There's not innovation being used from even the tools and the equipment that we're using out there. I mean, there's some innovation, but it's not 2020 out in the field, in my opinion. You have a giant lack of quality and pride. And so you have, from my opinion, you have some half-assed stuff going up because people aren't taking pride in what they're doing. And whether that means it's because there's just, untrained, unskilled workforce out there, just because there is such a lack of workforce, which that's another piece, is that I think our labor force out there in the skilled trades has been decimated through that 06 to 2010 timeframe, and it hasn't rebounded as fast as the need for it has rebounded. So I guess that all wraps up into training and development. And then two last points. Big one is people doing what they say they're going to do. I feel like I hear that more and more now that we've kind of identified that that's something that is a real need out there. It's kind of, I guess it's sad in a certain way that people just that's what the need is, right? We just want people to do what they're going to say they're going to do. It's sad that that's all sometimes a lot of these bigger firms are asking for. And then the last piece is you have all these silos. So we have concrete workers, we have the framers, we have the trim carpenters, we have the drywallers, all working in their own little bubble, and they don't want to work as a team. And so you've got these massive projects. Well, holy crap, the only way that we're going to get this thing vertical in a timely manner, produce quality, and stay on budget is if we're working as a team. And so, that's one of our goals, is to eliminate those silos so that we can produce better quality in a faster time, because we give a shit about the guy next to us. Sorry for swearing. I apologize.
You're totally fine there. Not a problem. So I just got to speak to this, and then we're going to kind of segue into next chapter construction. I'm curious about the name and all that. When I met you at City Life, shout out to Jerome and the team over at City Life Church in Lansing. I'm listening to you. We're hanging out. You're working in the industry. You don't have next chapter construction. And you're telling me about what you're seeing inside the company you're working with, which is family business, and that hits home. I know family business really well. Saw the good, the bad, the ugly. Um, and you also saw the dysfunction in the industry itself. So you were seeing two different things that I'm intimately aware about from partnerships and family business and being in construction. So there's a multiplying effect of complexity going on. But I'm listening to you and I'm listening to your background and I'm listening to your kind of what you deduced as the issues in the industry. And I'm like, oh, wow, he's got it. He picked it up. And not a lot of people do that, you know, we always say change starts with awareness. So here I am. I've been in the industry for a number of years. I've sold my shares. I'm helping entrepreneurs as an entrepreneur run better businesses, have better lives. One of the things we teach in EOS is why do you exist? What are you passionate about? Right? Who cares about money? Well, in the instance of why do you exist, we all care about money. The money issue must be solved. But this is a rallying cry that you're labeling here. And I'm like, is this, and I literally, you're not a kid, but I was thinking, is this kid, is he going to take this on? And oh my gosh, if he is, I want to help him do it. So that's why I was so intrigued by what you were talking about, because I agreed with the tech and the implementation or the lack thereof of implementation of great tech, because it's out there, the quality and the pride. And I was a perpetrator of it, I felt like, in many respects, because I don't know, maybe I wasn't brave enough to fully take it on, although I talked about it. The lack of actual trained people, just doing what you say. I'm like, yeah, it's a huge issue. And then the bubble, the silo, the people that aren't working collectively together. So you had me there, and you said this then. You'd say it more articulated now because you're getting it more. You were talking about this then. So that's why I was like, I'm interested. So you go and launch Next Chapter. You can go anywhere you want, right? Before, what happened, all that kind of stuff. But why Next Chapter? Why just start it? What are you trying to do with Next Chapter?
Okay, so, and I get some feedback on this as being a little crazy, but I saw COVID and that 6-week shutdown of construction in Michigan as a great launching pad. I said, okay, well, all my competition is going to be on their couch, eating bonbons and watching TV. And what am I going to do? I'm going to take that 6 weeks. I'm going to go get licensed as a builder. I'm going to set up I'm going to set up a business plan, set up a foundational operating system. Shout out to EOS. And start rallying the team and getting this thing from what's in my head onto paper and into implementation. And so, yeah, I saw COVID as a perfect launching point for that. You know, I think you might have actually shared this with me. There was a couple of really great articles about a lot of the businesses that emerged through the 06 to 2010 recession. And I think it really it showed me it was a great time to disrupt. I think maybe this is a Craig Rochelle quote, but disrupt what is to change and create what could be. And so I said, well, the whole thing's shaken up. That's the best time to change it. So
what does Next Chapter do? What's your unique offering? What do you do in the industry?
Okay, so so our mission, the thing that gets us up out of bed in the morning is to change the building industry. And so that's kind of at the top of the list. Does what we is what we're doing, is it offering change to the building industry? And it's not, you can't do it overnight. It's a path, it's a journey, it's a process. And so that's our goal. Amongst everything else, our goal is to change the building industry. And everyone on our team believes that. They have that mission in their hearts. And I think that's why we're continuing to have such a great traction at attracting these individuals, because they're also hungry.
What divisions, for those interested in knowing, like, cool, I'm super intrigued. What do you offer? Do you do concrete? What do you do?
Yeah, so we figured, okay, so there's different phases of the building process. Well, one that we see as a ton of room for growth or ability for change is, okay, once that pad or that concrete is done, well, you have rough carpenters, you got framers, you've got trim carpenters, you got drywallers, roofers, and then siding. As we're going vertical, those are very, very key points of the stage, where if your rough carpenter doesn't have material to frame, well, they can't continue to go vertical. And then we start pushing off all these MEPs. And so I guess if we can package that, those 5 scopes, do that really, really well, do it faster than anybody else with better quality than anybody else. Oh, by the way, not only are we bringing the skilled trades labor, but then we're bringing in superior vendor relationships and truly creating this turnkey option. Boy, oh boy, we can have an impact. And so because you come from the building industry, if a building is framed correctly, well, the drywall goes on easier. If the walls are straight, the drywall's straight, well, now we can actually create tight corners with our finished carpentry. And it all just has.
What sector of the industry are you in, Jeremy? Like commercial, residential, where multifamily? What do you do?
Yeah. So, and there's disagreements on what the label is, right? So we're in residential from the standpoint of multifamily. And so we're not doing single family homes. So apartments, senior centers, things like that. But then also in the commercial space, like the RBs, the urgent cares is a big focus for us. And so it's really a blend of multifamily and commercial.
Got it.
With a focus as well a little bit on the apartment rehabs. And so
sure, that's a big thing for a lot of existing apartment complexes.
Yeah. So let me summarize that real quick. So we're offering turnkey solutions, material and labor, across those 5 scopes. And we're focused on apartments, things that we can do and scale quickly. So apartments, senior centers, urgent cares, the step and repeat, get really, really good at, as opposed to trying to take on every complicated thing that there is.
So I want to kind of segue, just so we can talk a little bit about you and our intersection and really what you're learning using EOS. Because I'm super curious from your purview what you're learning. And just for the people watching this, it's a Friday, it's the morning. And yesterday, we just did a quarterly, which in EOS is at the end of a 90-day run, we meet and we reassess our entire business plan, looking at 8 questions: core values, core focus, our 10-year target, our marketing strategy, the 3-year picture, what we look like 3 short years from now on the road to the 10-year, driving that down, 1-year planning, 90-day rocks, and all of our issues. Those are just things that we're aware they have to get fixed. We might do something with them, we might not, but we're not dealing with them right now for our next 90 days so that we hang on those. So we have a plan right now for 90 days that puts us on track for the 1-year goal, that springboards us to a 3-year picture and puts us on the road to the 10-year. Now, I want to talk a little bit about just that VTO. We call that the Vision Traction Organizer. It's 8 questions on 2 pages. That's the business plan. That's it. For those of you who are like, I got a 20-page vision plan. Yeah, we do 2 pages. If you think that's weird, you should try it. It's really wild because it works. But I'm super curious if you're brave enough, tell us what you plan on doing in 10 years. Take us to the 10-year target, because your vision is to change the building industry. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's really big. You just started in the beginning of COVID. People underestimate what they can do in 10 years and overestimate what they can do in 1 year. I don't think you've underestimated this. We could be wrong. Will you just tell us, what do you want to do in 10 years in the industry? What's your debt in the universe look like?
Well, I think first off, just to kind of bring this in perspective, I was reading some really cool market studies. This one was launched in 2017. So the construction industry as a whole in America is a $1.16 trillion industry. Again, this is a couple of years ago, so it's probably increased a little bit. Of that, just commercial building, so no infrastructure, no roads, things like that, just commercial building is a $380 billion industry. That's a big freaking pond, right? And so I feel like that helps tee it up for those naysayers out there, because it's our goal. Well, if that's how big the pond is, well, we've got to become a pretty big fish to really impact true change. And so I say that in 10 years, our team is rallied around doing $125 million in annual sales. And so that's the sales target. I think we can do that and still drop 15% to our bottom line. I think we can be really fiscally conservative, making sure not to just cut costs, but to watch cost. And there's some fun things that I was able to do at Two Men that I think is going to help us do that here. But okay, so that's a boatload of money. Well, what does that mean? Well, the fun one that our team came up with yesterday, well, that means that we need to get a plane. Fully behind that, because commercial travel is not fun. But we want to be able to do some stuff. And my wife, who's my partner in this, she's really, really big on community service. And so when we get to that size and maybe at a little different scale before, she wants to be able to offer any of our employees every year, they get 40 hours a week paid to go volunteer in the community.
Wow.
So, you know, because there's always that excuse, right? I can't go volunteer in the community because I got to take time off work. Well, we want to embrace that. Please go help the community that we're in.
Really cool.
We'll pay you 40 hours a year to do that. And then one of our uniques about our company is that we really want to invest in our team. And so, again, as we're looking at that 10-year target, let's zoom into that. What does that mean? Well, that means we've got to have a freaking training fund that our employees, our team, can get help and assistance with. Maybe it's going back to college. Maybe it's getting that, that MBA that they've always wanted but haven't had the time to do. It could be, it could be training workshops. It could be, material vendor walkthroughs and solutions and things like that. And so let's give back to our community. Let's give back to our team. I think if we do those two things, we can rally people behind the mission.
Wow. Okay. So
Sorry.
Really big stuff. We're in EOS. We call that the vision page. That's the 10-year target, core values, core focus, our marketing strategy. We need to figure out who our ideal clients are, because they're the ones that can screw this whole plan up. You know what I'm talking about, entrepreneur, bad clients. Yep, they don't care about your vision. And then that 3-year picture, you took us to the 10-year, which is what Jim Collins calls big, hairy, and audacious goals. I think you got it, brother. That's pretty big. That's pretty audacious. You did wrap it around the context of the size of the industry, but all that being said, that's pretty big. Sounds like a dent in the universe for sure. I love it. I love you for it. With the time that we have, I'm just curious, so everybody can know what you really care about. Can you just kind of walk through your core values first? And then we'll talk about who you're looking for, your partners, your ideal clients out there. And then we're gonna drive this thing to the ground and talk about your integrator as we kind of wind this conversation down, because every vision needs somebody that actually can make this thing happen on the day-to-day.
Right.
So take us to what are your core values? Like, what do you guys care about?
Well, yeah. So this one, and again, you can spend months on a business plan and you can make it a 50-page thing, but again, I love how EOS dives it all down to 2 pages. And of the 2 pages, the big thing is okay, who are we as a company? What do we believe in? What do our people and our clients and our vendors have to act like and smell like and truly and are to a core, right? And so it was, okay, what do we want to be as a company? But it has to be bigger than that. what do we want our clients to be like? What do we want our vendors to be like? And so with all that being said, we got 5 core values.
That's right.
That we all feel really is the essence of who we are right now and who we want to continue to be, even as we climb to that $125 million target.
Mm-hmm.
And so of those 5, we have work hard, play hard, build it like it's yours, integrity, team over me, and then hustle. And so those are our 5. Just want to give them to you in a list real quick. Some of them are, the age-old core values, but some of them are a little new.
Take us back through each one. What does each one mean?
Yeah, and so work hard, play hard. It's fun to really, it's good to work hard, but you have to have a healthy work-life balance. And we have to work diligently to exceed all of our clients' expectations, but then also have fun during the entire process. And so, which, usually one gets missed, right? Either you're just working to the grind or you're just having too much fun and you're not getting anything done.
This sounds like a pretty wild company. You want to change the industry and have fun and actually take time off.
Exactly.
Wow.
And we're doing it, so it's fun.
Those of you interested in working with Jeremy and you're like, my work's not like that. Well, this is what these guys are like. It's pretty cool.
All right. The next one, and this one goes right back to what we saw as one of the big issues with the industry, is build it like it's yours. And so, we believe we have to earn our customers' trust. And how do we do that? By not putting up shoddy work. And we approach each project like we're putting it up on our own house. Okay. So if I know my wife, if all of my trim and my drywall looks like crap in our house, I'm going to hear about it all the time. And so I don't want to go do that for a client where, we're under this gaze that we're changing the industry. Well, to do that, we have to build it like it's something we own. Integrity, this is a tough one, but it's hard to sum up anything like integrity. And so I think, integrity, it's been used and it's been used a lot for core values, but here's what it means to us. So there's kind of 2 parts to it. So doing the right thing, even when no one's looking. So that's the first part. And then the second piece of that is, are you willing to lose yourself? Are you willing to lose yourself for anything that requires us to hide the truth or to hide ourselves? And so are you willing to do that? And that one really speaks to me. But it summarizes what integrity is. And then, we got team over me. Can't be doing what we're doing right now without the team behind us. We can't get to 125 million by ourselves. I can't do that alone. That's just a fact. And so, but that being said, that means I have to give up that focus on me, and I got to do what's best for the team. And so we're stronger, we're faster, we're better as a team. And if we lay down our self-interest for the betterment of the team, we're gonna produce a way better product than if we just did it by ourselves. Okay, and hustle, like I like to say, is one of our controversial core values, but whatever. To have the courage, the confidence, and the self-belief and determination to go out there and grind, like truly have that grit to grind until you find the opportunities and solutions that you want in life. Not being okay with the status quo.
I love it. I want to pound the table. I'm like, yes! I love it. Yeah, hoorah. Like the Marine in me's like, freaking in, let's go. We did this yesterday. I was literally pounding on the table like, yes. Now here's the deal. If you're excited, maybe you're not pounding on the table, and you're listening to this, and you're a general contractor looking for a construction company that can handle all these divisions, which, come on, GCs, you freaking know this is where a ton of problems lie, right? Or you're an owner and you need somebody to come in and do this, or you're a developer and you need a trusted partner to handle these divisions of work. Just so you know, Jeremy, can these guys call you, reach out to you, and if they work with you, hold you accountable to these values?
The answer is an easy yes, as long as they're truly willing and know what they want. That's
good.
Sorry, that's a key factor.
And just so for those GCs, developers, and owners out there, we have a meeting called the IDS meeting. We identify all your issues, discuss them, and make sure we can solve them and clear the air on what can be solved and what can't. But if you're interested, reach out. Now, here's the other thing. If you're somebody out there listening to this and you're working in the construction industry and you want to collaborate with this guy and you love these core values, you can reach out to him too. Is that a selfless plug for Jeremy? Yeah, it is. So if you're interested in changing the industry and rallying around the people that are like this, yeah, this is what these guys are about. So this is what EOS helps people do, is to get this kind of awareness, is that. And Jeremy, I'm just super curious, your ideal clients, I mentioned it, general contractors, developers, and owners. So that's the type, but what do they value? What's a great link if somebody's like, well, I'm one of those, just so they know, you know, what you're looking for. Outside of that, what do those folks have to value for you to get juiced up and excited about working with them?
Well, I think the easiest one just to get out on the table is they have to value quality over cost. And so I apologize, but we're not going to be the cheapest. Now, we make sure we're not the most expensive because we actually understand our financials and what goes into those costs, but we're never going to be the cheapest. And so you got to value quality over cost. Yeah. You've got to be willing to embrace some change. I get it. You've done it like this for 30 years. But if we keep beating our heads against the wall because we come up with the same problems every time over those 30 years, you got to be willing to change the way.
Wow.
And a lot of people say they want that, but then they actually can't go forward with that change.
Wow.
And then I feel like our goal, not only are we bringing people into our team that live and die by these core values, but we're also bringing in some really freaking smart people that have been in the industry and have learned a lot of things. And we're not perfect, but we're figuring out better ways to perform stuff. And so because we're doing that, I need a client that's willing to trust us. And I know that's so simple. That sounds so simple, but it's a really, really hard concept. You're hiring us to do a job. You're giving us exactly we're identifying what you need. Well, then just give us a little room to go run the play, coach. That's all we ask.
Well, and I can tell you, from the other side, sitting in a GC or developer or owner seat in the past, that's what I really want from the contractor that's doing this stuff, is somebody I can trust.
Right.
So,
and trust is earned. I get it. And so trust is earned. It's not given. But let us start off slow and we'll scale up from there. Oh, Ryan, did I lose you? You back?
I'm back. Pause. All right, we're back. Oh, that was really good. We'll have to do a little editing there. All right, so I want to go to, as we kind of wind our time down here, and I'll set a little bit of context up for some folks listening to this, is in EOS, one of the great awareness things that our founder, Gina Wickman, saw in all entrepreneur companies, where there's two distinct types of leaders in every organization. One like Jeremy, somebody with big ideas. So if you haven't figured that out yet, Jeremy's got some pretty big ideas. Somebody that can have some big relationships, and somebody that's going to lead this organization is going to have some pretty big relationships in the industry. Somebody that does research and development deep and understands what's going on. More of the research, less of the development, but you can hear it from Jeremy, it's coming out of him. Somebody that just absolutely loves making big sales happen to help sell vendors and clients and prospects and partners into it. So if you're a big vendor or a big relationship person and you're interested, Jeremy's your guy over at NCC to talk to. And then somebody that just like bleeds and is all about protecting the core values. And so you got that out of them there. The questioning I was doing with Jeremy was just to help any other entrepreneur that's out there that you're like, I'm like Jeremy, that's totally me. But I know, because I've been an entrepreneur and not free to be me, be a visionary. All entrepreneur companies need a visionary. Most of us find ourselves doing things that will drain the life out of us, suck the life out of us, whatever you want to call it. And that's the day-to-day. That's leading and managing and holding people accountable day to day. That's removing obstacles and barriers. That's doing everything from a profit loss aesthetic. That's executing the business plan day to day. And that is executing special projects, right? Every visionary out there, every entrepreneur, I'm using that synonymously, has a bunch of new ideas. Jeremy said he couldn't go to sleep last night after the session because he had so many ideas. But when we find the solve to that issue, because most visionaries find themselves having to do two things: be the spark plug, charge the visionary, and be the one to try to execute and bring that to the ground and make it happen. And usually that really grinds them. So if you're an entrepreneur out there and you're like, dude, that's totally me, well, we got to solve for you. It's called another seat, another person. That seat is called integrator. That person LMAs, leads, manages, and holds people accountable. The major functions of the business. Executes business plan, does everything with a profit loss aesthetic, removes obstacles and barriers for the team day to day, spends 80 to 100% of their time in the business. Visionaries spend 80 to 100% of time working on the business. Big differences. All great entrepreneur companies have these two. So I had to give a lot of context there because when Jeremy and I started working together, it was just an idea. He didn't have any employees. And he said, well, who should I hire first? I should probably hire sales or an ops person or project manager or finance and admin. And I'm like, who's going to run this thing day to day? Like, oh, the integrator. Should I hire the integrator first? I'm like, well, what do you think? So Jeremy, number one, do you have an integrator?
Yes.
Oh, and
praise God. Praise God.
So you did make the decision to early on hire an integrator.
Uh-huh.
Well, tell us why and what life is like as an entrepreneur in a young business with an integrator. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I think I think we were planning. We started the process a couple months after we got launched. We said, okay, we're going to need an integrator over the next 6 to 12, maybe 18 months. We're like, oh, okay, that at least puts boundaries around it, and let's start working towards that. I found out really quickly that when you start figuring out what the needs are of an industry like this one, you very quickly get positive feedback. You get a lot of interest.
Yeah.
And again, I think it just speaks to how hungry the industry is. But I was like, oh my gosh, we got way too much interest. I'm not good at, nor do I want to be the integrator. And so I need to like put the jets on this. I need to find somebody. And so, yeah, I think it was seeing the potential for us to skyrocket and realizing that I'm going to limit our organization if I continue to be in that seat. And so I got to find somebody, RFN, as my old boss would say. Yeah, so I think it was about a 6 to 8 week hiring process. And I hired general managers all across the country and did all kinds of recruiting services. So I've been trained in how to recruit high level leaders. the EOS process for that recruitment is completely different. It's amazing. And thank you for teaching me that, Ryan. But yeah, it was a 6 to 8 week process. And we literally, before either of us were ready to move forward, not only did I need to learn some stuff about that VI relationship, he needed to learn some stuff about the VI relationship. And then we just needed to get all of our crap down on paper and all of our issues, sorry. And we talked to them, and we just talked through them, and we talked through them, and we talked through them, and we talked through them until, guess what? There were no more issues left. And so it was an easy decision at that point for both sides. I think it was like, yeah, this makes sense. Let's do it.
How do you feel now that you have an integrator? What's the word that you use? Do you have a word you use?
I feel like I'm not capped anymore.
Ooh.
And so there's, being a visionary, as you know, you always got to you got to bring reality into the vision, right? It's got to meet somewhere. Well, where I thought that reality and vision cap, or that intersection was going to be, just went up 10 miles because I brought the integrator in. Because he leads, manages, and holds people accountable. He does all the things that I'm not good at so that I can go be good at the things that I'm good at and have time to do that.
What a concept.
So simple, but so complicated. So.
Good. Well, it's been great talking to you. For those that are interested in learning more about Jeremy's company, a couple things. One, they can find you pretty simply. How can people reach out if they're interested in talking to you? It could be an entrepreneur going, tell me more about an integrator and how the heck that works. Could be somebody that might want to be involved with you guys. How do they find you, Jeremy?
So you can start with LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you can find our company. You can find me on LinkedIn. We have a Facebook page, and then we also have our website. Pretty simple.
Do you have an email address?
I do. Are we going to leave that in the comments, or am I going to give that to him now?
Leave it in the comments, but just for those listening, what's your email address?
Jeremy, Jeremy, at thenextcc.com.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Jeremy, I could talk to you for 4 more hours. I suspect we will again.
Yeah.
That was absolutely amazing. Loved hearing about it. And what's interesting, just as a comment from you as your implementer who does all this with you, I learned stuff about you today that I hadn't heard and understood a lot of the whys behind some of the questions you've answered. Really great. So if any entrepreneurs out there interested in talking to Jeremy that's in the construction industry, or getting a hold of him and understand how EOS is affecting his life and how he wants to change industry, all that kind of stuff, reach out to him. He's here for you. Jeremy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Have a great day, brother.
Thank you for having me. Later.
See ya.